Hey, what's up everybody? It's Isaac from Alchemy here, and this is episode 29 of the Alchemy Devlog. In this episode, we're going to dive into Zen Mode, take a look at what that can do for you and how it can change your game. We're going to look at some new tools for organizing universe articles, some much needed organizational tools there. We've got Coriolis character generators, really nicely designed quick gens for Coriolis player characters. The volume level adjustments are much better now. You can get those backing tracks to a spot that makes sense for your game. And lastly, we've got some smaller changes like adjustments to Vaesen and Tales from the Loop condition trackers, and more. I'll also take some time, of course, to talk about what's next, what the team's working on right now, and what you can expect from us over the next couple of weeks. And we'll get those questions and answers. With that out of the way, let's dive in. First up, let's take a look at Zen Mode. We've got a new way to experience your game. This was sort of born out of the desire to simplify the interface in certain scenarios, and we think that this meets the need that a lot of people wanted out of streamer mode, the mode that we've talked about a lot. For people who aren't actually streamers, they wanted to use streamer mode, or the idea of streamer mode that we had given to them to make in-person play a little bit better. So this was sort of born out of that desire, but it's also just a great feature. So what is Zen Mode? It gets rid of a lot of the game panels so that you can focus on the scene for a moment. And you can get to it by clicking this gear and clicking Zen Mode. And it's just going to shrink everything out of the way. And now you can look at the cool scene, take in that art, and just kind of listen to the game master describe the scene, for example. You can also still access tactical mode, which the scene doesn't actually have a map on it, but you get the idea. You can pull up tactical mode and still interact with the full tactical mode here in Zen Mode without all the panels in the way. So you have much more usable space here. If you have a smaller display or you like to use Alchemy in a smaller window, this could be a great way to get a little bit more Alchemy on your screen at the times that you need it. You can also leave Zen Mode at any time by clicking that same keyboard shortcut, that same menu item. And there is also a keyboard shortcut which you can use, which is Control-Shift-Z to go in and out of Zen Mode, or Command-Shift-Z on Mac to just pop in and out of Zen at will. It's a skill that everyone strives for. So that's Zen Mode. We think it's going to be awesome just for smaller screens, awesome for in-person play when you want to show some visuals and track some music, and it's awesome for just times when you want to focus and kind of zen out on a scene. So use it, let us know what you think of it, and we can't wait to see how you all are using it. All right, for this next segment, we're going to take a look at some new article organization features that we're just launching today as this episode goes live. So you can now do two things. You can organize articles uniquely per module in a universe, and you can create dividers to organize those articles into different sections. So let's take a look at how that works. I've got one module here. I'm going to rename this one to Module 1. And then I'll create a second module, getting that ready to use. For Module 1, I'll go ahead and create an article. And here's our article in Module 1. I'm going to create a second article too. So we now have these two articles in Module 1. Here's what's new. There's an edit wrench down here in the bottom right corner of your universe articles screen. If you're an editor of this article, of the module that these articles are in, you can click this to enable edit mode for this, which is what allows you to drag and drop to reorder these. And that's now unique per module. And you can also insert dividers. So you can create a new divider and name it something like Chapter 1 and drag that up above these two articles. And then we can put them back in a sensible order, first and second. And then maybe we want another divider like appendix. So then we can leave edit mode. These dividers show up both in the list view and in the grid view. So you've got that option here as well to see your articles either way. And let's create a third article here called index. And that you can imagine that being just sort of an index of different articles. So now we have these sections and these articles nicely organized in our first module. Let's add some of these to our second module and add some other articles to it as well. So let's create an article for this one, my third article. And we'll create a section here for shared stuff. And let's go ahead and jump back over to module 1. And let's add the second article to our other module. So we're going to turn this on for module 2. And let's add the index as well for module 2. So now our first module has a section, chapter 1, my first article, and the second article, as well as a section for the appendix with an index article in it. If we switch over to module 2, we now have the article that we created here, my third article, and a divider for shared stuff, which is above the two that I just added in from the other module, the second and index. Most importantly here, I can rearrange these to have index be, for example, at the top here in module 2, but still be at the bottom in module 1. And these are pointing to the exact same article. It's not a new article or anything like that. So this is a pretty important organizational tool for universes with a lot of articles, which we have a lot of those ourselves as the folks who ingest a lot of the content for our partners. And we need this for some of the content that we've been shipping to you all. So it's very important for us, but it's also a great just organizational feature for you all to be able to use in your own campaigns and your own universes, however you happen to be using articles. So hope you enjoy that one. Please let us know if you have any feedback on that or want to see any cool new things with articles, and we'll take that into consideration. Okay, speaking of Coriolis, we have a new character generator over here that you can use to spin up player characters nice and fast. I've already got a character here on this one. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this character. Just delete it so we can start fresh. Okay, so I'm going to play this other account to create a player character for them, and you are greeted by a nice new character generator, much like character generators that we've created for other systems in the past. So you can start off with a name, always very important. If you can't think of one, just click that randomizer and you'll get a random name from the list. You can choose from the list as well if you want to select one of the predefined names here, or of course you can always type in whatever name you'd like. After that, you've got your background or origin. You could be first come or a Zenithian. And we have kind of the description of what that means here to kind of guide your character creation process. And then the ever important concept and subconcepts for Coriolis. You've got a list of all of those here. You can choose randomly and then choose your subconcept here as well. And the details of what the concept and subconcept mean for your character are down here below. And those change as you move between different concepts. So you could be a negotiator or a fugitive, and then choose your different subconcept and see the details of what that means for your character. And then when you're happy with it, you just save that character and you've got everything generated based on your selections there. So your character sheet is pre-filled with a bunch of the stuff that you would get from your selections. And then of course you can edit your character and go through and dial things in exactly how you'd like to. Group concept is, of course, an important idea for Coriolis. You can go in and set that up, choose your icon, set up appearance, create relationships with other players in the game. Very cool stuff for Coriolis. With the character generator out of the way, the really big things left for Coriolis is the ship sheet, which we're working on, and we hope to have ready fairly soon. I don't have an exact date on when that'll be ready yet, but that's one of the last things that we need for Coriolis is the shared kind of ship that all of the player characters have for playing Coriolis. So that is the new character generator. While we're in here, the volume level changes, I don't know if I'll be able to demo this nicely, but the volume changes are much, much nicer than they used to be. If you go up to like halfway, you're probably at a fairly reasonable volume level now versus before you kind of had to live in this bottom 10% or even 5%, depending on how your hardware was set up. And you can, of course, still get absolutely bonkers volume levels if you slide it all the way up. Sorry about that. Hope that didn't just blast you out. But yeah, so this is much better. We've gotten a lot of feedback about it being better. Pretty stoked with how this ended up. And sorry that it was so bad for so long. My bad. Okay, this is a quick one. Let's take a brief look at Vaesen condition trackers, which have been adjusted slightly again since last episode. We now have the condition trackers. They're still trackers down here, but instead of listing out each of the steps along the way, it's now just a numeric tracker. You can have 1 condition, 2 conditions, 3 conditions, or you're broken. And those mechanical effects of these are still present. You get -1 on, your related rolls here. When you have that, your mental pools get it, adjusted based on, I think I just changed that from 2 to 1, but they get adjusted based on your selections there. And it just shows a number for what's being adjusted rather than mapping that to a specific condition. Very small change. We think that's pretty much dialed in now. So wanted to call that one out. Okay, let's talk about what's coming next. So I'm going to jump into the What's New section of the app, which the roadmap hasn't been updated this week yet, so let's talk about it together. So we've got things like token rotation still in the works. We are working on this next. I'm personally going to be starting on that one after I wrap up this week. That's my next priority. I have appreciated all of the bumping that has been happening on our Discord related to this feature request. I know people are very excited about it, and I'm excited about it. I can't wait to get in there and start working on that. So I'm telling you now, it's next. It's my next priority. I'm jumping straight into that after I finished up the article dividers stuff, and I'll let the rest of the team keep jamming on what they're jamming on. System builder stuff, very, very important. And I'll dive into those tokens and get those rotating for us. We've got more work to do on streamer mode. We want to launch kind of an MVP of what streamer mode could be, but we wanted Zen mode to kind of split out from that and be sort of feel out how that works for most groups, because we do feel like there's a lot of streamer tools that we want to build, but the most frequently requested thing was tools for better in-person play, which we think Zen mode, which I showed you this week, is kind of the solve for a lot of those things. However, we do have a lot of streamer mode functions that we want to build out, and we haven't forgotten about it. I have just set it down for a little while as I've been working on other things. And with that, we have a bunch of systems in flight. We're very close on Coriolis. We're very close on Tales from the Loop. Speaking of Tales from the Loop, we are doing a big activation with Start Playing Games this month, February. If you haven't seen that on our Discord or other channels, you'll probably be hearing more about it soon. But we're going to be running some workshops on how to play Tales from the Loop this month on our Discord and through Start Playing Games and kind of hosting a Start Playing Games Tales from the Loop weekend on Alchemy this month. So keep your eyes on your inbox and other channels for more news on that, but it's coming up real soon. And we have really dove into System Builder, and we think it's going to help really build out a lot of the rest of these once we get things kind of up and running there. But we've still got this list of systems that we are actively working on, and we should be parallelizing that work very soon, which we're all very stoked about. Also not necessarily on this list, but coming up very soon is the ability to roll multiple dice in one go. So imagine kind of clicking your dice pool, your dice drawer at the bottom of your game, and selecting multiple dice to roll at once. We're going to be playing around with some new interactions there to make that a possibility for a lot of games, if not all games. And really support some cool new rolling capabilities. And we've also got new dice pool functionality coming up for segmented dice pools, and really in support of games like Forbidden Lands, which is kind of one of the next priorities for us in terms of our system support for V1. So expect a lot of cool dice pool upgrades coming out of that work. Okay, let's take a look at the Q&A for this week. Dayman, shout out to Dayman for the longest question ever. I've got most of it in here, and there's a few that I'll probably respond to directly. But let's dive into this. Additional import/export options. Would love to see the same options to export and import spells, equipment, actions, and all the other spots with JSON. Could we get a method in each of the current areas to download the individual JSON documents and import a single or list of JSON objects? Damien happens to be working on a big homebrew kind of 5e overhaul, and is even working on their own app for kind of wrangling these files, which is awesome, and I can't wait to see how that evolves. But yeah, in summary, import and export options in more places. I think most likely we're definitely going to take this into consideration. I would love to provide more flexibility in where and how you can import and export JSON. I think that we'll have to balance this with kind of user friendliness in the end. And you know, I don't necessarily want to scatter like import and export at every level of granularity there. And I think some of those may be better off in a future developer API, which is something that the import and export functionality actually was born out of the desire to create a developer API. But instead of, you know, building out everything that we needed for, you know, an API, we just ended up settling on the simpler and very useful approach of importing and exporting the JSON files. With that said, we definitely want to build support for more granular importing and exporting, but I think some of that may land on the future developer API, which I have no ETA on when that'll happen. Maybe when the dust settles for version 1, we can take a deep breath and consider, you know, what our options are there. But love the ideas, and thank you for that. Proficiency adjustments. This is another one from Dayman. For proficiency, can we either get another way to apply trained items expertise, either via left-click chaining that go from proficient to expertise to trained, or something like that? So yeah, I know we have a lot more we can do for things like Jack of all trades in 5e, and we do have a list of some 5e enhancements that are on our mind for the near-ish future. So I think we'll plan on seeing if we can include this in that work. And if not, we'll leave it on our 5e backlog. We'll get to it soon. There's definitely a few things like that that I'd love to have kind of polished up. Damage action. Weapons and ammo. Can we get a new action that is just a damage type? Yeah, that sounds useful. I think, you know, things like sort of healing could be useful for, it could be useful for that sort of thing. This is definitely something that we could consider in enhancing our items with actions. Definitely a good suggestion. Consider it added to the list. Consumable management. Speaking of consumables, can we get a right-click option to add or remove a consumable object in inventory? Yes. So that is the intention behind that consumable switch. It just never got finished. Never got around to finishing that functionality for items. But yeah, definitely that's the plan, pretty much exactly. Turn on the consumable switch and have some more options for quickly incrementing and decrementing the count of those consumables. We will get to that. Spell options. More from Dayman, in case that wasn't clear. Can we add another spell type, unmanaged or other? Sometimes a spell from a background lets you do it once per day, not like a cantrip. It's a special spell that goes in its own special little spot. And kind of bonus question, can we get more schools of magic? Yeah, so there are a few other situations like this, kind of limited use actions that kind of are a blend between what we have for actions and spells today. Think of the idea of like pips for spell slots mashed up with an action. That's kind of what has been going through our minds for a while in terms of how to handle these types of special spells or features that you can do X times per day. We haven't quite gotten to it yet, but I think we will be considering this and thinking about this a lot as we get deeper into some of the more action-oriented systems like Pathfinder. Pathfinder is going to have a lot of, well, spells and different action types that will be consumable or X per day, those sorts of things. And I definitely think we will be considering this type of stuff system-wide as we approach that. The way that we did spells for 5e is very cool and very tailored for 5e, but it's not super flexible for other systems. And I don't know if we will build something that specific for another system like Pathfinder. So it's more likely that we will come up with general purpose action solutions like what you're describing here when we get to that. But we'll see. We're not quite there yet. But thank you for this suggestion and kind of question here. Dice pool per stat or attribute. Would it be possible to have the roll options where we define how many dice to roll instead be defined by something like a stat or an attribute? So like in 7th C, you have brawn and athletics. You could roll 5 dice. Instead of defining 5 as the number, you would add together brawn, your brawn score and your athletics score. Yeah, so this sounds like it might overlap slightly with some of the work we're doing for segmented dice pools in Forbidden Lands. There might be some subtleties here that are a little bit different, but we'll definitely take this situation into consideration as we're upgrading dice pools and see how it fits for that. And I know we're going to support 7th C stuff eventually, so we'll get to that sort of specific 7th C example at some point too. Devlog summary. Finally, can we get a devlog summary link with all the other devlog articles linked to it and vice versa so that we can check these more easily? Yeah, I love this idea. And I'm saying here that I'll build this out soon. I think exactly what you're describing, kind of an index article with links to all the other things would be cool. Another way that I could maybe do it would be letting the devlog articles universe be publicly viewable some way, somehow. We kind of want that functionality too. Most likely just build it out as a quick index article like you're suggesting though, because that'll be much easier. So yes, love this idea. Definitely nice to be able to kind of have sort of a database of that stuff. Actually, now that you mention it, I'm thinking of Sly Flourish has a database that you can get access to as a Patreon, a patron of his, and you can search article, video topics and whatnot. Something like that would be very cool here, but I'm not going to go to that level probably because I've got other stuff to build. But yeah, index article, love it. Thank you. Okay, last up we've got handouts. This is from someone else. I'm sorry, it looks like I dropped your name from this, but thank you for the question. Hello, would it be possible for handouts to appear on the screen of everyone we decide to share them with at the same time, like a pop-up, to create some sort of suspense and surprise effect? Right now it seems that when we share a handout, every player has to manually go into the handouts tab and click on it to view it. Thanks. Yeah, so that's correct right now. you do have to share it, and then it's up to the player to go into their handouts and take a look at it when they want to. That sort of flow, I think, is the primary flow. However, I think that this is a very cool alternate option to show a handout at an opportune time. You may be describing something and you want to show it to the players, and it makes sense to put that in a handout. It's a poster on the wall that they're all seeing, which I guess you could do in a scene change, right? So a little bit of overlap with scenes, create a new scene, switch them to that scene to show them the, map on the wall or the wanted poster or whatever it is. However, I do think that this sort of idea plays in nicely to something that we've talked about on our Discord a lot, of sort of visual novel style NPCs where you can present them to the players. I could see that same sort of thing working for handouts as well, where you can kind of present the handout to everyone and they all see it at the same time, present the NPC to them, they all see it at the same time. It kind of overlays the scene nicely. I definitely think that this meshes nicely with that idea, and it's very cool. So thank you for the suggestion, and we will definitely take this into consideration. All right, that's all for this episode of the Devlog. I hope you enjoyed it. Wait a second. There's more. Let's get a sneak peek at what we are working on for System Builder. We've got most of the team dedicated to System Builder right now, which is why our releases have slowed down a little bit as of late. But what they are working on is very cool. So let's crack open that door and sneak in there and find out what's going on. I'm going to jump over to my staff account here, and we will go ahead and create a Sheet Builder sneak peek universe. I'm going to make this with a custom system called Sheets. All right, we are in our Sheet Builder universe now. I'm going to jump into System Builder, and you'll notice that there's something that that looks new here. A big Create Sheet button. Here's how this is going to work. Okay, first of all, warning. This is all very much work in progress, in development. None of this is live yet, but here's what we're working on behind the scenes. You can create a character sheet, and that gives you this kind of blank template to work with. And you can pop open a drawer of all the different tools that you would need to create your own character sheet. So you could create a row with 2 columns. And then for those 2 columns, you could put a special smart block called character name and another special smart block that's for the character's concept. If we close our drawer here, you can kind of see a preview of what that character sheet looks like. We can continue on and build out more sections. We can drop a heading in here, or we could move that down to another area if we wanted to by deleting this block. And we'll put our heading down below, not in a 2-column layout. And we could put a text area here for something like background. And have a nice sheet with multiple fields. And we have a lot more coming here. As you can see, we have some more smart blocks that we'll be working on here. We'll have some super secret staff blocks. We've got more headings, more options for rows with different size columns. If you wanted 3 columns of text, you could drag and drop those here to put your 3 columns in. If you wanted 4 columns, you can do that too. Put some more text inputs in there, just because they're quick and easy to grab. We've even got a drop-down block. We'll take the drop-down block and we'll just place it up here right underneath the name and archetype fields as a full-width drop-down. you can click on this and configure the options that'll be available in your dropdown as well. I'm going to leave this at its defaults of options 1, 2, and 3. You can also add more. We'll go ahead and add an option 4. We'll use words for that one for fun. So now we've got a funky little character sheet that I just put together. Let's use it. I'm going to jump back over to my universe and create a pre-made character. And do some magic. Okay, I'm back from casting my spell. I had to go to the database and manually associate that sheet with this character because we don't have that built out yet, but now they're associated. And when I open custom sheet guy, we're going to see our custom sheet get used on this guy. So in edit mode, we've got all the fields that I had just laid out, and we can put things in there. My drop down has those 4 options that we had outlined. You can select them. You can type, do all the things, resize your text area, save your character, and get an error. No big deal. We'll iron that one out. I told you it was a sneak peek. So yeah, this is what you can expect to see us using very soon to build sheets for all these systems we need to support. And of course, as is our way, you're going to find this stuff in your hands sooner than later. So you'll be able to use this to build out custom sheets for your games as well. Hopefully you enjoyed this sneak peek, and that's all I've got for you today. All right, that's all for this episode for real this time. I hope you enjoyed all the new goodies we've got for you there, the new fixes, the adjustments, and all of that too. Be sure to take a look at the release notes for the smaller stuff that I didn't cover here, and I hope you really enjoyed the sneak peek at System Builder, Sheet Builder stuff that we've been working so hard on. Shout out to Dan and Dakota for powering through that stuff these last few weeks, and I'm so stoked with where it's going. All right, if you have a question to submit to the devlog Q&A segment, feel free to jump down below into the description and click that link, submit that question. I'll get to it, even if it's a novel like Dayman's, and we'll all learn together. So, all right, that's it for this episode. Let's go play some games.